So we're going to talk some NFL draft. And you mentioned Dan Hellie, who, of course, used to work here for Channel 4. Now he's with the NFL Network. And it's going to frustrate EB because his guy
Dan Hellie's very
Trey
busy.
Lance.
When he's not doing, NFL stuff, he's in the background of the Joe Rogan viral shot at the UFC event from this past weekend. But he was on the Washington Football Talk podcast with our friends J.P. Finley, Pete Haley, Mitch Tischler. And he thinks that if Trey Lance slips into the teens, that's when Washington football team needs to pounce on him. So if
when I look at the needs for Washington and I look at who's on the draft board, I wouldn't trade up to draft a quarterback unless Lance is there in the teens. I don't want to mortgage the future, but if you can get Trey Lance and maybe trade one future first rounder to move up from 19 to 14 or 15, I would probably do that.
Here's the thing. I watched...
Casserly agrees with him, by the way.
I know. Yeah. It's so weird. It's funny because I found myself watching Julie Donaldson and Ron Rivera on that show on NBC Sports Washington. It was like their draft preview show. And it was interesting. It was on, and it captured my attention. And I thought, why am I watching this? He's not going to say anything to tip his hand, right? So why am I even bothering? But yet I get sucked in, and when she asks about sort of the needs and what they're going to do, or everyone's talking about trading up for a quarterback, et cetera, and he said something to the effect of that he definitely thinks that they have a few needs that are stronger than others, and that they're going to have to really do their homework into the background of these guys and going to kind of see how it plays out. Last year, they knew, right, they were going to get Chase. This year, it's like, what are the guys in front of them doing? But by him just saying, I feel like we have immediate needs in certain areas more than others, it made me think quarterback's not it. Because their quarterback situation is solved for 1 year. At a minimum for 1 year. You may hate him.
You might be right. You might be right on that.
I think it's solved for like 2 years.
I think that too.
I don't think Fitz is going to smash into a wall, but I think if there's I just don't see Lance falling out of the top 10. Like I just don't see a scenario where he falls that far because teams are so quarterback starved that I just don't see that happen.
Well,
Watch the film. That's the scenario. Watch
they don't
the
hate
game.
the film.
Well, wait a minute. They watch more film than you.
Right.
They're doing they didn't speculating.
Hold on. They didn't just watch the Central Arkansas game. They watched every single throw from 2 years ago.
I think you might be able to learn more from his bad games than his good games, but maybe not.
But again, I think they're thinking about Lance much like the Bills probably thought about Josh Allen.
They're banking on that,
You may not get tremendous production and completion percentage in the first year, but he's got such a cannon and he has such athletic gifts that they believe they can mold him into one of the better quarterbacks in the league in a couple of years.
One of those quarterbacks is going to slip. Lance or Jones or Fields. One of them's going.
Right,
to.
and
now
not to 19, I don't think.
No, not to 19, but like Hellie's saying, maybe to 12, 13, 14, maybe in that range. Now I think the Patriots are going to be all in on at least one of those guys, and they're selecting it. Where are they selecting? 15?
They're the 15th pick.
Yeah, so it might be tough to get ahead of them because I could see them taking a quarterback, but I think one of those QBs is going to slip a little bit.
But would you trade a first-round pick, which Hellie is saying, would you trade a first-round pick, a future first-rounder, just to move up 5 slots or 6 slots?
If you're in love with
if you really like that
them,
guy,
yes, you would.
Yeah.
Because you're forecasting next year, you're hoping your pick is in the 20s. So is that too high of a price to pay for what potentially could be your signal caller for a decade?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
But it never works out. It's like it never works out. There's like 6 or 7 guys that are there for a decade.
If you want to chime in, 800-636-1067. You can call us on the Gambit DC listener lines. Bet, play, win with Gambit DC, brought to you by the DC Lottery. It's 800-636-1067. That just seems pricey to me. If Lance is slipping and he slips, and let's say he's 13, 14 and you're looking at the landscape, do you trade a first rounder just to move up a couple of slots? I don't
Look at
know.
the landscape.
I don't know if that would.
Look at that.
I think you trade up for what you consider a sure thing. I don't think you trade up for a gamble. Like, it just seems
Well, aren't
crazy
they all
to me.
Yeah, they're all gambles. There's no sure thing. There's no Andrew Luck here. There's
Chase Young
nobody
wasn't
like
a
that.
gamble. Some would argue that Trevor Lawrence is not a gamble.
All right, but those guys are unattainable. Lawrence is unattainable.
But that's the kind of player that you trade up for, in my opinion. Like, when you're talking about giving up first-round picks, I don't think you give up first-round picks or multiple picks for say what you want about Trey Lance. He may end up being a Hall of Famer. He's a freaking risky pick.
I think
He's a
they
boom
all
or
are.
bust.
This is where I'm also subscribing to the Valdez theory. I'm taking multiple bites at the quarterback apple. Like, I'm going to take a chance on Trey Lance, and if it doesn't work out, then I draft the quarterback in the next few years relatively high. Because I have to get that spot right. And if I don't get it right with Lance, that sucks. But I'm going to have to go back and draft another one. I'm going to keep drafting there until I get it right.
But what we don't like in a quarterback, and these guys in this film, they may love. They may be looking at something on that film going, man, this kid can really do it. You know, and we just kind of look at, like, you know, we're just kind of goofing, but we look at one game or a couple games, oh, she can't do it. But they know what they're looking for.
Look, he's a great athlete, Jason, but he's inaccurate. Now, do they think, and I think it even showed in his pro day. I mean, the guy missed like 7 throws on his pro day. I mean, that doesn't happen. They tried to cover up for it, but he obviously missed a bunch of guys on his pro day.
He's got a lot to work on. But if you're drafting him, you're looking at him, you're saying, well, I'm now penciling in, barring an injury, I'm penciling in 60 or 65 rushing yards per game from my quarterback spot. And I'll build up the passing, but I now have this built-in rushing floor for my quarterback that's not going anywhere. It might even be higher than that.
But why did they care if their quarterback rushes for 60 yards? Like, I know you care because you're a fantasy owner, but why does a coach care if his quarterback rushes? I mean,
well, part of it is because it opens up the rest of the offense.
Right, and it moves chains.
Yeah, I mean, you have an element that a lot of other teams don't have.
So does throwing dimes.
Okay, but you don't think John Harbaugh loves the fact that Lamar Jackson can rip off a 50-yard run here and there?
I think he does. I mean, Lamar's a special talent.
It's a whole nother weapon.
And the offense in Baltimore is built around that.
Correct.
So some guys are going to be willing to take the chance on Lance because they can build a rushing-based offense around a rushing first quarterback.
You better hope that you get out to an early lead every game, because that's the knock against that, is the coming from behind bit, right? When your quarterback is rush reliant.
I always get put in a box as far as it's fantasy related. It's not just fantasy related. Look around the league. This is becoming the new normal. Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson. These guys all run the ball.
Throw the ball, though.
They can all throw the ball too, but they all run the ball too. They have that element. Lamar Jackson. I mean, there's a lot of these guys in the league.
Lamar's
now.
not the passer those guys are. I'm sorry. I don't want to offend Valdez. He's not the passer those guys are. I don't think he is.
MVP.
Yeah.
Josh Allen wasn't the passer as a rookie. He was completing about 50% of his passes.
Still developing.
I would say he is the rare bird that has really blossomed.
I mean, if you can keep cranking out Tom Brady's, guys who are statues and play into their 40s, that's great. I would love.
You
I
don't
would
have
love
to be a statue.
I would love to think that assembly line is still cranking those guys out, but. Those guys are starting to become a dying breed.
But that's not the choice, a statue or a guy who's an elite runner. What you can have is, hell, who's the guy, Mills from Stanford. That guy can do both. And but it's not like he's not an elite runner, or he's not necessarily, but he's not a statue either. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be only a statue to be versatile. To be able to
but every list has Lance ahead of Davis Mills.
I understand. They're banking on potential. Then it happens all the time. We talked about it the other day. We got guys, some guy runs a 4.3, all of a sudden you never heard of him, and now he gets drafted 3 rounds higher than he should.
I don't think Lance is going to be available at 14, 15.
I don't think so either. I would be shocked if that happened.
Now, Mac Jones might, but I don't think Lance will.
Let's go to the phones. 800-636-1067. Aaron's in Suitland on line 2. What's up, Aaron? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Thanks for taking my call. It's so funny you're having this conversation. This morning I woke up and I looked at the Washington football team depth chart. And if you look at the offensive lineman and look at the linebacker position, it seems like we're really decimated. I think that at the number 19th pick, I think that we all can agree the individual needs to come in and get major minutes or a starter. So I don't think that we can afford to, experiment, with Lance. But further on saying that, you think about it, all the quarterbacks that we signed, we only signed them for 1 year. So who knows what they're going to do, but I'm hoping it's an offensive lineman or a linebacker.
Right.
Thank you, Aaron. That's
with you.
reasonable.
I think linebacker's a bigger need, but it could be offensive line too.
Yeah.
Either one.
I know
of
you
those.
won't be excited, but if they
I won't
take,
be excited, but it makes sense.
yeah, I mean, if they take a left tackle at 19, he's probably going to be your starter, hopefully for the next 8 to 10 years.
Well, there was a story that came out, I think it was this weekend, but maybe it was a few days before, that they had looked at trading for Orlando Brown. So they're looking to upgrade.
No doubt. All right, let's go to Brendan in Richmond, line 3. Brendan, what's up, buddy? You're on with the Junks.
Guys, in the last 9 years, we have 4 first-round players that are good players on our roster in the last 9 drafts. 3 defensive linemen and a guard. And we've proven that you can still build a good roster without hitting on all these first-rounders. So if you have the chance to get a quarterback, he doesn't have to turn into Deshaun Watson. He can turn into Kirk Cousins. Give up a first-rounder. You can still build a good roster without that first-rounder, but you need a quarterback. And if you get a good quarterback on a rookie deal, then you get to use the economics of the NFL. You get to sign a bunch of free agents for his last 3 years of his rookie
Right,
deal.
that's the unicorn, though. That's the dream. I mean, you're talking about the dream.
I just said you don't need Deshaun Watson. If you get a Kirk Cousins type quarterback,
That's still a dream.
on a rookie deal. I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. He's not Deshaun Watson.
No,
but
they'd
he
be
might be
thrilled
pretty
with him.
good.
They'd be thrilled with Baker
And look at-
Mayfield. He went
And look at
1-1.
the
He was the
roster
number
there.
one
He
pick
went
in the draft.
1-1, Brendan.
He was the number one pick.
Yeah, but my point is, don't think that the first round picks are gold, because we've proven that you can build a roster, and we have 4 first rounders, and 3 of them are on our defensive
Who
line.
would you move up for? Who, if they were available? You're not going to get Lawrence. You're not going to get Zach Wilson. After that, if you saw somebody, who would you move up for, and how far would you go?
Well, the problem is none of us know about Trey Lance. I mean, none of us have watched North Dakota State, and he's played, a season and a half, basically.
Yeah, it's a
so
huge
none of
gamble.
us know that.
Huge gamble.
And the other problem for Washington fans is because Justin Fields was with Ohio State, we're all still scarred by the Dwayne Haskins
That's
debacle.
true. That's true.
But they're 2 very different quarterbacks. So my point is, if it takes a first rounder and you can move up to 13 or 14, and that's all it takes to grab Trey Lance or Justin Fields, you do it. It's worth the risk.
I don't think
it's
that's a reasonable
calculated risk.
possibility.
And Brendan, I need to correct you. If you look at the last 7 picks by the Washington football team, 5 have hit. Okay, Josh Doxson didn't hit in 2016, and clearly Dwayne Haskins didn't hit. But Brandon Sheriff, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, they've all hit, and they're all contributing.
That's true.
So they've actually had a little more success than the way you are portraying it.
The way these quarterbacks are being talked about, there's no chance, in my opinion, any of those guys are going to be available like at 13 or something. You're going to have to move up to like 7, 8, or 9, maybe, to get one of the stragglers.
I think one of them is going to slip, though.
The 13 or 14?
I think it's a possibility.